Okay, forewarning before this video starts, it's just me yapping about web fishing. I really like web fishing, so I'm using the fact that I make videos as a pastime as an excuse to info dump about it into the void. That's all this really is, so if that is something you're willing to sit through, then go ahead. We're just gonna jump right on into it. Web fishing is a simple game where you fish. Basically, if I had to describe it, imagine any game with a fishing minigame, such as Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, Harvest Moon, etc. Take the fishing minigame and build a whole game around it. Also, make it a multiplayer online chat room. Let's talk about how the game was made and what it even is. Web fishing was originally made as part of a game jam by creator Lame Developer, who just goes by West on Twitter. They made the original version back in 2022, and it was made in just 8 days if Wikipedia can't be trusted. The project continued from there, and West spent the next couple-ish years expanding on the initial concept, until it was released as a full game on October 11th, 2024. Like I said at the start, web fishing is a pretty simple fishing game. Upon starting up the game, you'll be sent to the tutorial, and hey look, that's us. We're a cute little cat in this nice little hollow in the woods. Check out these red mushrooms. It's all very nice here. There's this little fishing hole with a bench next to it. There's wooden signs with tooltips on them explaining the game to us. We can move our camera by holding down right click. We can zoom the camera in and out with the scroll wheel, and move with WASD. Also, you can sprint with shift, and crouch with control. Pretty standard controls all around. Moving around in web fishing just feels nice and tight. Anyway, going further into the hollow, another sign tells us to press tab to open the backpack. Here, we can equip a fishing rod. Also note the bait counter in the bottom right hand corner. We have 5 worms. Now, with the rod equipped, we can move over to the little fishing hole, and another sign tells us to hold down left click to charge up our rod. On doing so, our little cat player character starts to wind up the rod, and we can see a reticle moving out in front of us. After letting the reticle move over the water, I release and the rod is cast. There goes our bobber into the water. And, after sitting a moment, an exclamation point appears and we enter the fishing minigame. In order to catch fish in web fishing, you must hold down left click to fill a meter, before a red meter chasing after you catches up to you. The trick is these gates that will stop you until you mash enough to deplete their power value. Since this is the tutorial, there's only one gate, and it only has a power value of 1. So we catch this fish no problem. On reeling it in, we see we've caught a rainbow trout. The catch scene that plays is reminiscent of Animal Crossing especially. Our character proudly presents the catch to the camera as a text bubble with the name of the fish, its size, and a little quip about the fish is typed out to us. This is one of the first things that made me love web fishing. The quips about each fish. Basically, imagine the little quips Animal Crossing wrote about its fish, but instead of being written by some lame employees at Nintendo, they're written by some random 20-something. Case in point, we caught a rainbow trout. These fish is gay. Good for them. Good for them. This immediately became a joke in my friend group that everyone quotes whenever a rainbow trout is caught. And I mean, there's just so many cases like this in the game. I absolutely love it. Anyway, now that we've caught a fish, you can see our bait counter has gone from 5 down to 4. We can keep fishing here, or we can move over to this little mound. It's got a sign that says sell plus bait. Another sign tells us that we can press B to open our tackle box. On the left, we can select and see how much bait we have. And on the right, we can see our selected lure. All we have right now are worms and the bare hook, so there's not much to look at. Let's take a look at that mound. The sign next to it gives us the tooltip, press E to interact with. Interact, yeah, but the interaction prompt says E to talk. And, oh, hey Fox. They're not too talkative, but we can sell our fish to them and buy some more worms. Worms are free though, so we're not out any cash, which is nice. Anyway, now that we've caught and sold a fish, we can now exit the tutorial. And I will now be switching to my real save file for the remainder of the footage. Okay, let me take you around the world of web fishing. Warning, prepare for me to say the phrase, "we'll go over this in more detail later," a whole lot while I'm touring the island. There's just a lot to cover. Alright, let's go. Here we are. This is Paw Print Point, the location web fishing takes place in. As you can see, we start in front of this log cabin. To the left is a quest board, where we can see different quests to complete. All the quests revolve around catching specific fish a certain number of times. Some quests, like the catch X amount of freshwater fish, never truly get completed. You just get it reassigned with a higher catch requirement each time you collect the reward. So even once you've completed most quests, there's still stuff in the background to work on. To the right of the cabin is a vending machine. Let's come back to that after we've checked out the log cabin. Alright, going into that first log cabin, we're greeted by a nice looking frog. They seem to have a beard made of fish and 2 lobsters, which I love. To the left is another bait stand, and to the right is a shady looking opossum. Additionally, there's a table with a couch and some chairs, as well as just some boxes cluttered next to the wall. Well, we already know what the bait stand does, so let's talk to the frog. The frog runs the fishing store. Here, the first thing you can see is that we can upgrade our camp tier. Upgrading this gives us access to island entrances. This is a flag you can place down, and interacting with it transports you to a private fishing island. The higher camp tiers gives you access to bigger and bigger islands. Alongside this, upgrading the camp tier allows you to purchase more and more from the stores. The next thing in the fishing store is the bait licenses. You start with just worms, but as you get more money from selling fish, and as you upgrade your camp tier, you'll be able to unlock more bait types. These are leeches, minnows, squid, and nautilusks. Hey, editing cats, while I was making this video, Webfishing actually released an update which added a 7th tier of bait, that being gilded worms, which you can see on screen now. Alright, back to it. Different bait types will allow you to catch higher and higher quality grades of fish, which is something we'll go more into later. Next is the rod upgrades. The first stat to upgrade is power. This is how much each click of your mouse depletes a gate's power value while fishing. It starts at 1, but it can be upgraded all the way up to 125. Next is reel speed. This is just how fast the fishing meter will fill up while you hold left click. Rod chance decreases the average time it will take you to catch a fish. Rod luck will increase your chance to catch bonus loot when you hook a fish, such as coin bags or treasure chests containing money or cosmetics. The final upgrade is your tackle box. Upgrading this allows you to carry more bait. You start at a paltry 5, but this can be upgraded all the way up to 50. Okay, next is a big one. Remember our bear hook from the tutorial? Well, here we can see all the lures you can purchase. First is the fly lure, which will increase your chances of catching smaller fish. We'll go over all the fish in more detail later, but examples of small fish would be goldfish, frogs, krill, etc. The next lure is the patient lure. This is the perfect lure to use if you're planning on playing web fishing alongside something else. Remember in the tutorial when we caught a fish and it did a 3, 2, 1 countdown? Basically, the patient lure will hold off on starting that countdown until you click to start the fishing minigame. Without this lure, the fishing minigame will simply start even if you're not ready, and you'll lose the fish. Okay, next is the lucky hook. This lure gives an additional 10% of the fish's value in extra cash. Next is the challenge lure, which causes these little pop-ups to show up around the fishing minigame HUD, while you're reeling in your catch. If you move your mouse to click on them in time, you'll score some bonus cash. I believe the bonus cash per pop-up is roughly 5% of the fish's value. Alright, next is the salty lure, which allows you to catch saltwater fish even if you're fishing in lakes, ponds, rivers, etc. And then there's the fresh lure, which just does the same for freshwater fish when you're fishing in the ocean. Okay, a bit more interesting is the quick jig lure. This will increase both your reel speed and your power stat by 25%. Once you have your rod fully upgraded, this isn't really worth it, but if you're struggling to catch fish early on, it can be a big help. Alright, next we have the efficient lure, which just gives a 20% chance to not consume bait when you catch a fish. Simple, but it's nice to not have to stock up on bait as often early on before your tackle box has been upgraded. The next lure is the magnet lure, which increases your catch chance for catching garbage. That's right, it's not just fish and aquatic critters you can catch. Examples of garbage would be old boots, sticks, or even soda cans. The base catch chance for garbage is 4.9%, which is higher than it sounds, and this lure increases that up to 14.4%. The magnet lure also increases the catch chance for treasure chests, up from 2% to 4%. Alright, next we have the large lure, the inverse of the fly lure. It increases your chances of catching large fish, however, it also has a 25% chance to consume an extra bait when you catch a fish. This side effect is shared with a lot of the later lures, so get used to it. Next is the attractive lure, which simply increases your catch chance by 30%. This is good if you just don't like waiting around and, enjoying the atmosphere of a relaxing fishing game. Okay, next we have the sparkling lure, which increases your chance of catching higher tier fish. And again, we'll go into this in more detail later, but to give an overview, basically there's a higher tier fish that are harder to catch. Example of these would be alligators, king salmon, or whales. There's 3 tiers in total, all with higher and higher rarity. The next lure is the double hook. This gives a 15% chance to catch 2 fish, as well as a 25% chance to consume an extra bait. Honestly, I've never even used this one, but yeah, it just doesn't seem worth it in my book. Okay, the next lure is a bit complicated, and we'll talk more about it later, but rain can happen at Paw Print Point. While fishing in the rain, you can catch certain rare fish. Anyway, the next lure is the shower lure, which has a 6% chance to summon a tiny rain cloud above you, for about a minute. During this time, you can catch those rare fish that require rain to be caught. Others can also take advantage of this rain cloud, which is nice. Honestly, with it only lasting a minute, I think it's better to just wait for rain to happen naturally, but if you're playing with some friends and have a whole group using shower lures, it can be worth it, with a bit of luck. Okay, last up is the golden hook, which effectively triples the catch chance of catching ultra rare fish. However, it will also consume 3 times bait. This functions almost exactly like the sparkling lure. It increases the chance of catching higher tier fish, but it will always consume 3 of your bait instead of a 25% chance to consume just 1 extra. However, there is one situation where I find the gold hook better, but we'll go more into number crunching later, because for now, that's all the lures. The next thing to purchase from the fishing store is the different rods. Now, all the rods are just cosmetics, so why care? Well, purchasing rods is locked behind certain accomplishments. You'll see the first rod after the simple one you start with is the Traveler's Fishing Rod. Purchasing it is locked behind catching every fish at least once. Subsequent rods require you to catch every fish at each respective quality grade. You see, quality is what the bait primarily affects, whereas tiers are usually affected by lures. For instance, worms will only ever catch normal fish, but moving 1 tier of bait up to crickets will give you a 5% chance of catching shining fish, which is the first quality grade up from normal. You can tell what quality the fish you've hooked while reeling it in by looking for stars in the top left of the fishing HUD. There's 5 quality grades, not counting normal. It goes shining, glistening, opulent, radiant, and alpha. Completing the journal on each of these qualities will unlock the ability to purchase a corresponding rod from the store. Except for the Prosperous rod, which just costs an obscene amount of money. Okay, next is the fishing buddies. There's a saltwater fishing buddy and a freshwater fishing buddy. You can place these on the ground and they'll passively catch fish on their own. You can upgrade both of them to increase their catch rate as well as the quality of fish they catch. These just increase the amount of fish you're pulling in, which ultimately increases your income and odds of filling in more entries in the journal. They're great to have, and it's just nice seeing the little fish fishing on the buckets. Lastly in the fishing store is the portable bait station. These are consumables which summon a bait shop, which can be used once before disappearing. They're pretty cheap, so if you're going to be fishing for a long while away from any shops, like one spot in particular we'll talk about later, I'd say they're worth grabbing. That's everything we can purchase from the frog seller. What's this shady looking opossum got? This is the cosmetics store. From here, we can purchase different eyes, noses, and mouths, as well as clothes like hats, shirts, hoodies, flannels, pants, shorts, etc. There's also some fun accessory options like glasses, collars, rain boots, and even antlers. Under the miscellaneous tab, there's some fun stuff like hand labelers, which allow you to rename items, or boxing gloves, which allow you to bop others in your lobby and send them flying. We also have unique bobbers for when you're fishing. I personally like running the bomb one. And different titles you can equip, which will appear under your player name. Yes, I'm very cozy right now. See, it says under my name. It's official. There's also some fun stuff like different colored chalk, which can be used to draw on the paved terrain outside, and different guitars, which are actually fully functional guitars that you can use to play songs. Or you can just install a mod to play MIDI files through them like most people seem to do. This seems like a good time to talk about the character customization options. After you've got yourself some new cosmetics, you can press tab to open up the inventory again. However, there's more tabs than just the inventory tab. The one with the t-shirt icon takes us to customizations. Here we can choose between being a dog or a cat, as well as our fur pattern, primary color, accent color, and tail, or lack thereof. Then there's face, where we can choose from our different eyes, noses, and mouths. Clothes is, well, your clothes, and do note that you can only have a max of 4 accessories on at a time. And finally there's misc, where we can select our title and bobber, as well as customize our character's voice for when we use the chat feature. I really like this as an option. There's 2 sliders, and you can use them to adjust to your voice's pitch, as well as the speed at which your character will talk. As long as we're here, I'll take this moment to walk through the rest of the backpack. First up is inventory. The first tab in our inventory is for all our tools, like rods, fishing buddies, and consumables. Next is creatures, and this is just where you can see all the fish you've caught. Quick tip, you can press 1 through 5 while hovering over an item, and add it to your hotbar, and if you right-click an item, it will favorite it. This is mostly useful for if you catch something special, like an axolotl or something, and you don't want it to get sold when you press sell all at the bait shop, because, you know, axolotls are cute. Though do note, you can only favorite 50 items at a time. And I know this because I reached 50 clownfish favorited at one point, and stopped being able to grow my clown collection, and I was upset. Anyway, to the right of the inventory tab is the journal tab. This is where you can keep track of every fish you've caught, as well as stats associated with it, like what tier of fish it is, what qualities you've caught it on, as well as how many you've caught and the record size for each. Next, you can see all the different colored bars at the top, and this is journal completion progress for each quality. You can hover over it to see your exact percentage of completion in each quality grade. Finally, you can switch between viewing the freshwater, saltwater, and misc fish. Alright, next is the inbox, and this is a pretty fun addition. You can write and send letters to others in your lobby. You can even attach gifts to the letters. Do note, sending someone a fish they don't have yet won't progress their journal. Me and my friends tried that as soon as someone caught a golden bass. You can, however, just flood one of your friends with all the branches you keep catching for some reason. Next is the player list for the lobby, and here you can just mute people if you don't want to see their messages, and if you're the host, you can use this to kick people from the lobby should that unfortunately be necessary. Okay, last thing isn't a tab, but you can also see your rank on the left-hand side of the menu. You get XP whenever you catch a fish, which will level or rank you up. As you progress through the ranks, you'll get new titles that can even be equipped in the customizations. Additionally, each of the new titles has a corresponding badge, which is a nice touch. Okay, menu talk over, sorry about that. That's everything in the lodge. Let's step back outside and check out that vending machine. If you interact with it, a shop menu opens up. Let's go over what all you can purchase from the vending machine. The first category is Catcher's Cola, each of which boosts your fishing stats for 5 minutes. The first is Basic Cola, which gives $1 to $10 in extra cash per fish caught, as well as improving your stats slightly with the Catcher's Luck status. Specifically, this increases your catch chance by 15% and your reel speed by 25%. Next is the Ultra Cola, which gives you a whole 25% of the fish's value, on top of $10 to $50 in extra cash. Stats-wise, it increases your catch chance by 30% and reel speed by 45%. Then, finally, there's the Deluxe Cola, which is the same as the Ultra, but instead of 25% of the fish's value, you gain 25% more XP per fish caught. I'd recommend going with the Ultra Cola if you're trying to farm cash, and the Deluxe Cola if you just want to level up fast. You're gonna make your money back either way, so it's worth it. The second category is the Slurpees, which are much simpler. There's two, the Speed Slurpo and the Speed Slurpo XL. Both increase your movement speed. The Speed Slurpo gives a 1.3 times multiplier to move speed, and the Slurpo XL gives a whole 4 times multiplier to your movement speed. Okay, thirdly is the Real Draw, the adult drinks. We have two options here, Hook Light and wine with a really long name that I can't pronounce. Both give you varying levels of intoxication. Being intoxicated like this will cause your character to become flushed. You can go from buzzed to drunk to hammered all the way up to effed up. Being intoxicated like this will cause your character to become flushed, and also move around involuntarily and sometimes even fall over. Additionally, if you use the chat feature, whatever you type down will be all slurred, which is a really fun touch. Anyway, the final category is special drinks. Water will just cancel out certain statuses, such as intoxication, but not positive ones like the catcher's bonus from Cola, or the speed from Slurpees. Then there's the Shrink Soda and Big Beverage, which will shrink and enlarge your character model respectively. Finally, there's the Bounce Brew and the Super Bounce Brew. These will just increase your jump height by 2 times and 4 times respectively, as well as the speed at which you dive forward. Alright, that covers the vending machine. To the right of the vending machine, we can see another log cabin. This is the aquarium, which is a fun feature to add to a social game like this. Inside is a big tank that you can walk around and view. There's even some cozy benches if you want to just sit and chill for a while. Approaching this slot type thing at the front will allow you to insert a fish that you are currently holding into the tank. When I first started, I figured it'd be like Animal Crossing, and as I caught each new fish, I'd slowly fill up the tank with all the different creatures. However, in Webfishing, you can only put one creature in. The catch is, every lobby you join, your fish will be in the aquarium, so it functions more as a fun way for each person in the lobby to showcase their most prized fish. I like this. It's a fun way to work an aquarium into a multiplayer game like this. It also can just get really goofy when the fish you have in the tank is something huge like a whale and it clips through the edges of the tank. Or, oh gosh, big fish. Let's go back outside and see where all we can fish. Paw Print Point is a big place after all. I won't cover each and every river, pond, and pool you can fish from, but I will go over the more prominent places you can fish. First up, heading down the path from the quest board, we can see a big lake. This is primarily where I'll go to fish for freshwater fish. It's got some nice benches to sit at while fishing, as well as a couple bait shops relatively close by. Having some friends all lined up along the lake with fishing poles is a nice vibe. All the trees nearby, and just still feeling tucked in while fishing at a larger body of water. It's just nice. Let's keep following this path and see where else it leads. Well, actually, first, you may have noticed these blue mushrooms as I've been walking around. These aren't just part of the environment like the red and brown mushrooms. Here, let me show you. Yep, they launch you way far. You can use these to quickly get around the lake, or, like I found out, land yourself right on this little cluster of rocks in the middle of the lake. I'm sure there's a way you could find to do this consistently, but I just do good old trial and error. Anyway, it's a nice little spot to fish from if you want to stand out from everyone else while fishing from the lake's edge. Anyway, going a bit further along, we'll start to see the ocean unfold ahead of us. There's plenty of sandy shores to fish from, but the main locale of the ocean is this pier we can walk out onto. This is where I primarily fish for saltwater fish, as well as probably just the place I've fished the most overall. You can sit on the edge of the dock, or hop up on one of the supports if you're feeling fancy. You can position your camera while fishing to look out over the ocean, or have a nice clear view of the island. We can see further along the coast what looks to be a dock. And, oh yeah, that's the lighthouse back there. Here, let me show you over there next. If we go back along the path, you can see there's a break in the ridge, allowing us to go into this little hollow. It has a nice little pond with plenty of cattails. More importantly, there's a ladder on the other side. If we walk around the pond, we can climb up the ladder to get up onto this ridge. Up here, if we follow along the ridge to the left, we'll find our way to the lighthouse. Again, like the ladder before, if we approach the door, we can interact with it to get up on top of the lighthouse. The top of the lighthouse has a nice bench if you just want to sit and chill. However, if you want to fish here, you can go down to the ocean side and cast your line all the way down to the ocean. It's really fun being able to fish from way up here, and I'm really glad the lighthouse is a part of Paw Print Point. Next, let's head down to the dock we could see from the pier. You can follow the same road we've been following. Heading past the pier, we'll eventually see a bridge that takes us over the river, running through Paw Print Point. Here, we'll have to deviate from the road though. If we continue following it, it loops back to the spawn where the lodge and aquarium are. Instead, you can walk over to the beach, and you'll see there's this wooden ramp that lets you get down. From here, we can take a short walk along the shore, over to the dock. Unlike the pier, the dock is right up against the water instead of being raised up. It's a lot smaller than the pier, but it's nice and tucked away if you want a cozier place for saltwater fishing. However, that's not all to see at the dock. Take a look back there. There's a small shack built into the ridge. If we interact with the door, instead of entering the building like the others, the panel on the door will slide open, and a figure shrouded in dark stares back and greets us enthusiastically. This is the dock shop. Here we can buy trinkets and treasure hunting gear. This comes in the form of a metal detector. You can equip the metal detector like a fishing rod, and while walking around the island, you'll get a red ping above your character that grows in frequency as you get closer to the source. When you've found it, a dirt pile will surface, allowing you to collect the treasure. Things you can find include junk like buttons, old coins, and soda tabs. However, you can also find fragments for things like a watch, a sword, a monocle, or even a top hat. If you find 3 of a kind of any of these fragments, you can purchase the respective item from the dock shop using the fragments and a bit of cash. Ooh, look, very fancy. The next category sold here is gambling. This comes in the form of scratch-offs. There's 3 tiers, each tier having a higher potential award. It's gambling, so you're more than likely just gonna lose money with these, but they're a fun addition, and it lets me and my friends make gambling addiction jokes. Okay, the last thing is props. If you press V, it'll bring up your prop menu. From here, you can place down up to 5 props you've purchased to decorate your fishing spot. The props you can buy include such things as a picnic blanket, a 6-pack, a stereo, or even a well that you can really fish in. There's a lot of fun props, so with a big group of friends you can make a fun setup on the pier or along the lake. Alright, the next place I want to talk about is a weird one. Let's head back to the lodge and I'll show you. Once you enter the lodge, walk up to the wall and leave just a little bit of space to make it easier. Okay, now open your prop menu and place down your island entrance, and you'll see the flag has been placed out of bounds from the lodge. Now, walk up to the wall and enter your island. Alright, immediately exit back out, and, well, look at that. We're out of bounds. You can't fish or anything here, so what's the point? Well, just run further out of bounds and find out. Once you've made it a good 20 feet or so from the lodge, your character will fall and activate a room transition. Now we're in a black emptiness, the lodge nowhere in sight. This is the void. The chat window tells us we feel a light breeze. Here, we can place down props like a picnic blanket and sit down and fish. The void, for all intents and purposes, is a freshwater fishing spot. But there is also a secret you can pull out of the water that we'll cover later. I love the void. It's probably my favorite place to fish. Getting a group of friends down in the void with picnic blankets, campfires, six-packs, all just fishing together in the emptiness is such a vibe. Fun tip, if you equip the shower lure down here and summon a rain cloud, it makes the void look just so cool. I love it so much. Alright, one more quick tip for the void. Getting bait once you've run out in the void is kind of an annoying process. As you'd expect, in the void there's no bait stands just lying around. As such, initially, it would seem the only way to refill on bait is to press escape, hit return to spawn, and then go to one of the normal bait stands and pop rim point. However, there are two alternate methods. The first method is to use the portable bait stations that you can purchase from the frog in the cabin. However, while this method works well enough, it requires you to keep purchasing a consumable, and I just don't like relying on that. As such, I prefer using the second method, which I will explain to you now. The medium and large islands both have bait stands on them. So, if you use the small island entrance to access the void, and then place down either the medium or large island entrance down in the void once you're there, you're free to go to your island and use the bait stand there, and then just exit your island and reappear back in the void. This is a really quick and simple way to refill on bait in the void, and doesn't require you to go back to spawn or keep purchasing a consumable. Okay, one last place. Let's head back to spawn. From here, if we go behind the lodge, you'll notice a waterfall. However, this isn't just any ordinary waterfall. Here, let me show you. If you approach the waterfall and jump into it, you'll see it was actually just a thin sheet of water, with a little alcove hidden behind it. In here, there's a singular tombstone. If we interact with it, a spectral hand rises up out of the grave, giving us access to a new shop. There's only one thing for sale here, it's the spectral rod. It has a requirement to purchase, like the other rods in the fishing lodge, but the requirement is a bit more interesting. You need to obtain the 5 spectral bones. I won't spoil how you get them, but if you really want to know, you can just look up a guide or check the wiki. All I'll say is going about obtaining the spectral rod is a great way to explore the island, so make sure and make note of some fun fishing spots while you're looking for them. Alright. So, we've explored the island, seen the sights, but this is a game about fishing. Upgrading your rod, bait licenses, etc. will happen naturally as you accrue more and more wealth from fishing and completing quests. While getting all the upgrades, I recommend drinking Ultra Cola, as you'll make more money than you spend on the cola from the bonuses alone. I personally really liked the efficient lure while I was just farming cash, but the lucky lure is great too. I guess you can use the challenge lure for more extra cash, but it's just too much for my brain. Also, just get the fishing buddies. They'll boost your income like crazy. With cola, the right lure, and some buddies, you'll max out the upgrades in no time. The main thing I want to talk about is completing the journal, as that's the main progression, quote-unquote, in webfishing. In webfishing, there are 32 freshwater fish, 32 saltwater fish, and 14 special fish under the miscellaneous category. This adds up to a grand total of 78 fish you need to catch to complete the journal. However, to get all the achievements and rods, you also have to complete the journal specifically on each quality grade, meaning you have to catch each fish on normal, shining, glistening, opulent, radiant, and alpha. This means you have 468 entries in total to fill for 100% completion of the journal. Circling back to upgrades, I'd recommend upgrading power and speed first, as those will allow you to catch the higher tier fish reliably. For similar reasons, I'd recommend getting the sparkling lure as fast as possible. This will make hooking higher tier fish more likely, and thus just cause you to complete the journal faster. And, right, fish tiers. I'll go ahead and explain those now. Basically, there are multiple tiers of fish, which is different from the quality. For example, a largemouth bass is a tier 1 fish. Then there's something like, say, a turtle, which is a bit rarer at a tier 2. And then finally, there's tier 3 fish like alligators. Depending on what bait and lure you're using, a pool of random fish is generated from each fish's catch chance. Then a fish is selected from the pool, taking any modifiers from the lure into account. For example, the fly lure will always prioritize small fish like goldfish, frogs, or crabs when selecting from this pool. Now, I do recommend mostly using the sparkling lure for the increased chance of generating higher tier fish in your pools. However, there's also the golden hook, which you unlock once you've reached camp tier 4. Remember when we were talking about lures and I said the golden hook is worse than the sparkling lure in all but one situation? Well, that one situation is fishing for extremely rare fish, which, that's what it says in the description. But, nah, let me explain it better. It functions the same as the sparkling lure in the sense that it increases the odds for generating higher tier fish in your pools. However, once that pool has been generated, if an ultra rare fish like a golden bass is in the pool, it'll be prioritized over the other tier 3 fish like alligators, for instance. And, right, ultra rare fish. There's 4 in total. The golden bass, which can be caught in freshwater, the golden manta ray, which can be caught in saltwater, the diamond, which can be caught anywhere but is junk and also just really rare, and finally the leadsichthys, me and my friends just all call it the pogfish, which requires you to be fishing in the rain to catch it. I swear we'll cover rain soon, don't worry. To lay everything out, use the sparkling lure to complete the journal until you're down to specific fish. For the ultra rare fish, swap to the golden hook. For all the junk like weeds, boots, bones, etc., use the magnet lure. And if you're missing small fish, swap to the fly lure, and big fish like the whales, you'll want to swap to the large lure. But what are these fish on the top row in miscellaneous? If you haven't seen them yet, well, we'll need to talk about rain. See, I said we'd talk about it soon. Rain is an event that can occur in web fishing. There's a script running in the background checking whether or not a list of potential events should occur. The chance for rain starting begins at basically 0%, and every 10 seconds that chance increases by 0.012%. So it's a slowly building, but rain is inevitable. Once a rain cloud does appear over Paw Print Point, it will slowly drift around. It'll do this for a total of 9 minutes before disappearing, and the process will start again. The rain cloud is pretty sizable, and while standing underneath it, everything will go dark, and rain can be seen and heard all around you. While fishing in the rain, you can catch these special rainfish, or prehistoric fish. Yes, another subcategory of fish. There's the Animalacaris and the horseshoe crab, which are tier 1 fish. Then there's the Helicoprion, which is a tier 2 fish and an adequate pizza cutter. Finally, there's the pogfish, which is a tier 3 fish, and also an ultra rare fish like the golden bass and golden manta ray. Okay, can we talk about the pogfish? Catching the other ultra rares is pretty straightforward. Take the golden fish. They're rare, but pretty simple, as you just use the golden hook and hope in their respective waters. But the pogfish complicates things by being restricted to these 9-minute random windows of rain. At the end of the day, it's all luck, which is part of the relaxing charm of web fishing, but it's still just... I've gone multiple days trying to catch a specific fish. It can be a slog, but when you finally do, it's just a pure sense of joy. You caught it. Look, there it is. You finally caught it. There's 2 more fish that are kinda under specific circumstances. First, the UFO, or unidentified fish object. For this fish, you have to wait for a meteor. A meteor is another event like rain. However, the chance doesn't rise like rain. It's a static 0.4% with a chance to occur every 10 seconds. If the event is rolled, a chat message will appear saying, "What was that?" accompanied by a meteor falling out of the sky into the water. You'll have to track down where it fell, but it's made easier by the meteor giving off clouds of steam that rise into the air. My favorite tactic is to use one of the bounce shrooms to get elevation and spot the steam clouds, and go from there. Once you've found the meteor, simply cast on top of it, and you'll have a 100% chance of catching a UFO. Alright, the next special fish is the creature. This is a fun one. It's a tier 3 fish that can only be caught in the void. Pretty simple to catch, and you just have to be in the right spot and get lucky. But the unique design and fun quip when you catch it is so worth it. I think that's everything I have to say about catching specific fish. Completing the base journal was kinda peak web fishing. The game is obviously still relaxing, and I've sunk almost 100 hours into it at this point, even if a lot of that time was just having it open in the background while doing other stuff. The charm of catching each new fish and just how exciting and new it all was, comparing journals with friends and getting excited for each other with each new catch. The vibes were unmatched, and I'll really treasure that initial time playing web fishing. Now, I caught all the fish in the first week of playing web fishing, so most of my time I've been completing the journal again and again on each quality grade, which requires more than just hoping to catch the right fish like that initial completion. Now, you have to bank on catching each on the right quality grade. If you want the easy way to brain off this process, just equip the highest quality bait, the Nautilusks, and just go for it. The Nautilusks is the only bait which allow you to catch every quality grade from normal all the way to alpha, so no matter what, you have a chance of catching a fish on every quality grade. Although I do recommend completing the normal grade first before doing this, as the chance for a normal fish while using Nautilusks is a 0.16%. Okay, but what if you want to do the quality grades one at a time, maximizing odds for each? Well, I'll walk you through that. Starting with the normal, you don't actually want to use worms like you may think. They're the basic bait and give normal fish a 100% catch chance, but they are also unique in that they're the only bait type which restricts which tiers of fish you're able to catch. Worms are incapable of catching tier 3 fish, so you'll never actually be able to complete the journal if you're using just worms. Instead, I'd recommend using crickets, the next tier up. Crickets have a 95% chance to catch normal fish, and a 5% chance for shining, so it's the most reliable way to complete the journal on normal quality. Next, for shining quality, you're going to want to use minnows. They give a 35.63% chance to catch a fish on shining quality. Now, roughly a 35% chance is a big drop from normal's 95% chance with crickets. What happened? Well, past crickets, the chances start getting split between more than just a couple quality grades. You see, minnows also have a 35.62% chance for normal fish, a 23.75% chance for glistening, and a 5% chance for opulent. This only gets exacerbated at higher tiers of bait. For glistening, you're going to want to use squids, which have a 36.34% chance for glistening fish. For opulent, you'll want to use Nautilusks, which have a 39.19% chance to catch opulent fish. For radiant fish, you will want to use gilded worms, which have a 48.4% chance to catch radiant fish. And finally, for alpha fish, you'll once again want to use gilded worms, which have a 12% chance to catch alpha fish. To summarize, use crickets for normal, and you'll have a 95% chance. Use minnows for shining, and you'll have a 35.63% chance. For glistening, use squid, and you'll have a 36.34% chance. For opulent, you'll want to use the nautilus, which will have a catch chance of 39.19. And finally, for radiant and alpha, you'll want to use the gilded worms, which have a catch chance of 48.4% and 12% respectively. The odd thing about this number breakdown is that the difficulty of completing the journals on each grade is not a linear line. The optimal catch chance rises and falls across the grades. Ranking all 6 would look like this. Normal, or grade 1, is the easiest at 95%. Radiant, or grade 5, is the second easiest at 48%. Opulent, or grade 4, is the third easiest at 39%. And glistening, or grade 3, is the fourth easiest at 36%. Shining, or grade 2, is the second hardest at 35%. And alpha, the 6th grade, is the hardest at 12%. You can kind of see it's got a whack difficulty scaling, if you even want to imply that this cozy fishing game has a difficulty scale. But yeah, that's how I'm going about completing the fishing journal on each quality grade. Currently, I've got the journal completed on normal and shining, and I'm getting really close to glistening. Just a few sticklers in the ultra rare category left, as you'd probably expect. I really friggin' enjoy web fishing. Having that one fish you're trying to catch on a specific quality grade, and just whiling away time in between other stuff as a background activity is so nice. Even focusing fully on it and just turning on a podcast and exclusively playing web fishing when I just need to relax. The game is so great to have as just a chill place to hang out. Speaking of a hangout, let's talk about web fishing from the more multiplayer aspect. Okay, coming clean real quick, I am someone who's pretty shy around strangers, so I will admit I've never actually joined any public lobbies in web fishing. However, I do have friends to play the game with, and I must say playing web fishing with my friends is just amazing. I love hanging out at Paw Print Point with all my friends. Dressing up in goofy outfits, decorating the void with all our props, just chilling out on the pier while fishing, listening to a friend play guitar, watching someone draw. There's just so many chill things to do together. A big thing my friend group loves doing is sending each other mail. We've come up with some running gags, like always sending branches to one friend in particular, or punching someone off the pier whenever they catch a big fish. It's a game that perfectly facilitates the creation of funny in-jokes and interactions. My friend group has had multiple in-jokes spawn from web fishing. That's something really cool to me. How this game feels like a real place that I've made real memories in. Hanging out with friends in Paw Print Point feels like hanging out with friends in person. That's something I think is amazing that a video game is able to accomplish, and honestly, just really frickin' impressive. The next thing I want to talk about is how this game was admittedly a bit of a fad. There was a solid couple weeks where I was seeing content about web fishing near constantly on YouTube. However, that's really tapered off, which is expected, sadly. My friend's time playing the game has also admittedly diminished. So has mine, if I'm being honest. A lot of memories and experiences I'm recounting took place over the initial first 2 weeks of playing the game. My time playing the game with upwards of 8 friends in a Discord call at a time are kinda just in the past now. But that's okay. I do still like coming back to Paw Print Point pretty regularly just to fish by myself. Like while watching a movie or just chatting with people, for example. Those first 2 weeks almost felt like a week at summer camp I'm remembering from my childhood. Except it's a fishing game I bought a couple months ago. Again, I just think the fact that webfishing made me feel like I was hanging out with these friends in a real, tangible place is something special. And now I'm getting nostalgic for what was, to me, the video game equivalent of the last week of summer vacation before all of my friends left for college. I think that's really cool, and I cherish that about web fishing. It's given me a lot of memories, and I feel an emotional attachment to the world of Paw Print Point. I still go back there, because I just like being there. Web fishing isn't really a game to me. It's a place. A place I go to relax and spend time with people I care about. For a $5 game I bought off Steam, I think that's really special. Okay, I know that last section was a bit more emotions, feely, icky, instead of just yapping about catch percentages, but I just wanted to get across why I really love web fishing. And, wow, that's everything I have to say. I will admit the script was kinda messy. I yapped a lot about specific details that probably didn't need to be covered as much as I did, but as I hope I got across, I just really love this game, and I wanted to talk about as many parts of it as possible. So if you sat through all of that, I just want to say thank you for watching. I don't know what my next video will be, but no matter what, I really like making videos, and I want to get better at it. So, if you're interested, expect something else from me eventually. Goodbye for now.